So can we start with your full name, please?
Ralph Bird Sutherland.
And can you spell that for me?
RalphBird Sutherland.
Great. And where and when were you born?
I was born on December the 29th, 1925, in Los Angeles, California.
So how old are you today?
Today I am 92. I will be 93 December the 29th of this year.
And which branch of the military did you serve with?
The United States Army.
Okay. And what did you do for the Army?
Played trombone in the military band.
And what years did you serve from and until?
From April the 12th, 1944 to May the 11th, 1946.
And what was your rank?
T5, corporal.
And you served in both the European and...
The European Theater of Operation and Pacific Theater of Operation.
Okay. Which one did you go to first?
Went to the Atlantic.
Okay.
European Theater of Operation. Mm-hmm.
And what was your timeline over there? When did you arrive and when did you...
I think we got there around January of 1945 and served 8 months there. And from there we went to the Pacific Theater of Operation. Just spent 8 months there also.
Okay. So you remained in the Pacific after the war had ended?
When the war ended, they sent us back home. Uh-huh.
And the band that you were in, was it a specific name or a unit number for that band?
1332nd Engineer Band.
Okay, great. So I'd like to rewind and talk a little bit about your childhood growing up in Los Angeles. Who were your parents? What were their names?
My father was Augustus Earl Sutherland. He was born in Jamaica. My mother was Maud Nora Bird. She was born in the Cayman Islands.
So you got your middle name from your mother?
From my mother, yeah. And my last name from my father.
And do you have any siblings?
I had an older brother, Augustus Earl Sutherland Jr., Leroy Bird Sutherland, and a sister, Gloria Grace Sutherland, all born in Cuba. I'm the only one who's born in the United States. I could have deported my whole family at any time.
And you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest, yes.
And were you guys a close family growing up?
Yes, we were. The old saying, everything goes on in the family stays in the family. That was an old saying my father taught us.
You guys stuck together?
All the time.
And did both your parents work, or?
My father had a grocery store, and my mother had, she contracted manufacturing blouses, women's blouses. She had a shop with, she hired 23 women to do piecework, and my father had a grocery store.
So growing up during the Great Depression, did you guys face any hardships? Did your father maintain?
I'm sure we had hardships, but we didn't know it. We didn't know it at all, no. Uh-huh.
And what were some of the things you did for fun growing up?
Well, my father, we had a lot of acreage. My father raised corn, black-eyed peas, string beans, tomatoes. I remember when corn was 20 cents a dozen. Tomatoes 3 pounds for 10 cents. And that's where we grew up. Then I had a little place on 103rd and Central where I sold corn, 20 cents a dozen. My brother's, my one brother had a vegetable truck. He'd go in the neighborhoods and sell vegetables. My oldest brother, we'd lug them up and sell them to markets like uh, Piggly Wiggly at the time, and I think a Safeway store.
So I'm guessing Los Angeles was a bit less
Yeah,
crowded back then.
for sure. I could stand on my. We lived on 108th Street, and I could stand on my porch and see the city hall, which was down on First and Main, quite a few miles away, 8 or 10 miles from my home.
And were you able to keep the money that you sold, or did that go back
No,
to
my father got all the proceeds, and he was nice to us. We got everything we wanted, or needed.
And how old were you when you were
When I was
selling?
selling corn, I think I was 13 years old. So that would make my sister 13, 18, one brother 19, another brother was 20. Uh-huh.
And did your mother do a lot of cooking for the family?
Yes, she cooked every day for us. Yeah, we had.
What were some of your favorite dishes that she would make?
I really didn't have any favorite. Just ate the whole thing. Whatever it was, I ate it. We didn't have much of a choice.
Yeah. And did you play any sports growing up?
I played football one year, but then it was hazardous to my playing music. I might get my lips messed up, so I gave that up.
So when did your music career start?
I think I started playing trombone in grammar school, probably in about the 5th or 6th grade.
Was that your choice, or were you?
Well, it was my choice. Yeah, it was my choice. And then I went to junior high school and got in the junior high school band. Then I got into the senior high school band. And that must have been, well, on December the 7th, 1941, that's when Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. At that time, I think must have been 16 years old at the time. And I was playing the high school band and chasing girls, of course. Or it might have been the other way around, chasing girls and playing the band, I don't know.
Priority.
Yes. And then 3 years later, I was 19 years old, and I was playing in speakeasies in the nightclubs around Los Angeles.
So did you start out playing the trombone?
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything that drew you to that particular instrument, or
That was my choice. And I took lessons from. My first lessons were from Britt Woodman, who was one of high school. He graduated from the same high school I went to. He later on played with Duke Ellington. And then I took lessons from Lloyd Reese Jr., who was one of the teachers around Los Angeles. And then, let's see.
Let me ask you, who were some of your musical influences growing up?
Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Lucky Millinder, all of the big bands.
Did you want to grab that?
No.
So what high school did you attend?
I went to David Starr Jordan High School in Los Angeles.
Okay. And you ended up graduating?
I graduated from there, yes.
Okay. And you mentioned the date, December 7th, 1941. Do you remember exactly where you were that day?
That day I was going to the movies in Los Angeles, a little community called Watts. And I didn't know what they were talking about. They bombed Pearl Harbor. Didn't mean anything to me, really. I didn't realize it really until one of my brothers went into service, and we were at war. I never thought that I would go, 1941, I'm 16. But 3 years later, I was 19, and I got a letter from the draft board to report for an examination to see if I was eligible for the Army. And I went down, got in line, The doctor says, open your mouth, say ah. I went, ah. He said, bend over. I said, ouch. He says, okay, that's it. You can go home. So I did.
That was the extent of your physical.
Yeah, and then about 3 weeks later, I got a letter from the War Department telling me to report to Fort MacArthur in San Pedro to be sworn into the United States Army. I didn't have much of a choice. I went and I was sworn in on April the 12th, 1944.
Okay. Just to rewind a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about your playing in the speakeasies and
Yeah.
everywhere else you used to play. So this was during Prohibition?
No, this was no prohibition. This was during the war. We're talking about 1904. Let's see. I started.
Prohibition was in the 20s.
Huh?
Prohibition was years
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Right. So you played in a band?
Yeah, bands, pickup bands in different locations.
So it was different people
Yeah,
all the time?
all the time, different people. Yeah, and then I played with a little band called Eddie Myers. I played with them for about a year before I got drafted. Mm-hmm.
And what type of music would you guys play?
Well, I guess you would call it jazz at that time. Yes.
Any original music?
And the blues and all that. Some of Count Basie's arrangements, some of Duke Ellington's. Just the latest thing was out at that time. Mm-hmm.
So the popular music.
Popular music, yeah.
Did you ever write any of your own music?
No, I just done some arranging of some other numbers, but I never wrote one of my own. Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming, would you be hired by the
Yeah, you'd be hired by the whoever had the job at that time.
Do you remember how much you'd be getting paid for a night out?
$17 a night.
17?
Yeah. 3 nights,
for the
51.
whole band or just for
No, just for me.
Okay.
3 nights would get you $51, and we during that time I played them just about 3 nights a week. Would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. Mm-hmm.
This is after you graduated high school?
That's after I graduated high school. And I didn't get a chance to play long after I graduated from high school. Most of the time was during when I was 17 and 18 in high school. I played a lot also then. Okay. Yeah.
And was this sort of your main source of income?
I didn't really have to have an income because I was still staying at home with my mother and father. Yeah. That was money I probably blew.
And do you remember any of the names of the places that you would play at?
The Last Word, the Downbeat, Little Harlem. Where else? There's a couple of the Elks. A lot of dances at the Elks.
And you had 2 older brothers.
2 older brothers.
Both of them were drafted in the military?
No, just one. The middle one, Leroy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did he serve in the Army as well?
He was in the Army also. He was in Fort Huachuca Military Police.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. During that time, the Army was segregated. So that's where he was, and I was at Camp Ellis, Illinois.
So once he got drafted, did you start paying a little more attention to the war and
No.
what was going on?
I was involved in the playing of music in the speakeasies and the nightclubs. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't write my brother maybe once or twice the whole time that he was in service.
And did you think that you'd eventually be called to duty?
I didn't.
Was that not a thought?
I didn't think I was going to make it. From 16 to 19, I figured the war would be over at that time.
And then one day you received that letter.
Yeah, one day I received the letter to report for the examination. Then as I said, 2 or 3 weeks later, I received the letter from the War Department to report to Fort MacArthur to be inducted into the Army.
Which meant that you'd passed your physical?
I had passed my physical. and big crocodile tears start coming.
You didn't want to go.
I didn't want to go. But after I got into service and got through my basic training, I loved it because I was doing the same thing that I was doing, playing in the speakeasy. I'm now playing in a dance band and a military band, and we played a lot of shows for the troops. Yeah, we were all over England and all over the Philippines playing different troops.
So you initially reported to Fort MacArthur.
Yes.
And did you go through any training there?
No, we stayed there. They just we got our equipment. We went to and got our uniforms and shoes and clothes, and then they shipped us out about a week later.
And when were you assigned to the engineer band?
After basic training.
Okay, so where did you go for basic training?
I stayed at I stayed at Camp Ellis, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where the band was formed. Once you get through basic training, I'm sure they have a dossier on you, and they found out that I could play music. And they told me to report to the recreation hall to be interviewed, and I went down there to be interviewed, and he read my whatever it was, and he says, "Oh, I see you play trombone. Well, we want you to come back tomorrow and sit in with the band to see if you will be eligible to play." So meantime, here's 2 sheets of music. One was Washington Post, and one was the Stars and Stripes Forever. I couldn't understand why he was giving me these 2 sheets. I told him, "Well, I don't need the sheets. I can read music pretty well." He looked at me sort of funny. Well, the Washington Post and Stars and Stripes Forever, we played that in high school every day. I didn't need no music to play that. So he says, "Okay, you report tomorrow." And sure enough, I gave him music back, and I couldn't understand why those 2 numbers. And I had to walk about a couple miles back to my barracks, and I thought I just didn't get it. And then it came to me. Washington Post is a nice song, It'd go right through it. Stars and Stripes Forever, there's a little tricky part in there. If you're not careful and he's directing, he'll catch you. And if he catches you, then you're in big trouble. So the part that in the Stars and Stripes Forever, it'll go da 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 da. It'll get to da 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 da. And if you're not watching the director, he'll catch you. He'll either speed it up or slow it down. And I went right through it with colors. He called me up and said, "Okay, Sutherland, take this back to your barracks." And he said, "You do read music quite well." And I started saying, "Oh yeah, I told you that," but I couldn't do that. He's a lieutenant. He might have court-martialed me, so I went on back down and reported back to my barracks. So that's where they selected me as a player in the band. When I got down there, I ran into one of a trumpet player. We had played together in Los Angeles in a band, and that was like a letter from home. You see a guy that and that's where the band was formed right there.
So your basic training didn't involve any musical instruments at all?
Oh no! As I told you before, though, at that time it was segregated. I happened to have a couple of Southerners, white Southerners, that just gave us hell. They'd get us up 3 o'clock in the morning and go on a 5-mile hike or a 15-mile hike, and all that stuff that you're talking about crocodile tears. There were some nights I cried some real tears. But I got through the basic training. That was the toughest time, the 3 months that I had in the service. Other than that, it was duck soup.
So you're trained
to shoot a M1 rifle. I was trained to kill people. And they didn't give us any ammunition because I'm sure some of those guys might have killed some of those officers. We went through when you go through the infiltration course, they're shooting those tracers I'd say about 4 feet above your head. And if you raise up, you will get a bullet in the back of the head. And you're crawling through mud with the rifles, with your rifle under barbed wire. And it's muddy and dirty and slow. Oh man, what a time. and you get 3 months of that, you're ready to kill. There's no two ways about it. Yeah. You'll kill your mama.
What other forms of discrimination did you face?
Well, the little town of Macomb, Illinois, was outside of Camp Ellis, Illinois, and it couldn't have been no worse than Mississippi. Mississippi couldn't have been any worse than that. But I stayed on camp. I never went out to. If I did, I got on one of the trucks that the Army had and go into town and catch a bus where I was going, which I'd go to Quincy, Illinois every time I got a chance to get in town. But I stayed on the base mostly, because in California, we ran into discrimination, but nothing like that down there. No way. Yeah, so I had no reason to want to go into town. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I didn't run into any discrimination at all. Not in service.
And then after your basic training, just remind me, you were in Illinois for that, and then when did you join the band? Where was the band formed?
The band was formed at Camp Ellis, Illinois.
Okay.
Okay, and after the band was formed, there was a colonel came in and he says, "Okay, we expect you in 3 months to have a show ready." A show? We didn't understand what it was about. He says, "You're going to be entertaining troops, along with marching for the 2 battalions." We were stationed at headquarters, Battalion 1. He says, "You will put on a show for the troops." Well, that wasn't hard to do because all the musicians that were there were all professional. We'd been playing, we'd been playing in different bands. There were some guys from Lionel Hampton's band, there were some from Count Basie's band, and guys who were musicians. We didn't have to learn anything. Everybody knew. So what they done, they put one guy in charge by the name of Stanley Facey. He went to the School of Music, Juilliard, he had an ear. You could say, he'd tell you what note it was, whether it was flat or whether it was sharp. So he was in charge. They put together 4 guys they called the sad sacks. They sounded like the ink spots. If I didn't care for you. And then we had one guy sound like Herb Jeffries. Herb Jeffries was a singer with Duke Ellington, and his favorite song was Flamingo. And of course they had me to sing the blues. So we had 3 groups right there. Each could do 20 minutes, so that's an hour. Then we had the band. We were fortunate enough to, out of the battalion, to get a guy by the name of Skip Hall, who was an arranger, arranged music. He'd arranged music for J. McShann. He'd done something for Louis Jordan and a couple of the other bands. Then we were also fortunate enough to get a guy out of the 2nd Battalion by the name, maybe you've heard of him, George Kirby, the man with 1,000 voices. He had his show. He had a TV show. I forgot the name of it. But if you ever look up George Kirby, you will find, go online and just put in George Kirby, and you'll find he's an entertainer. Well, he was our comedian. We could get a half hour to 45 minutes out of him, so we got an hour and a half show, and we haven't even started practicing. Then the band could go for an hour or so. So we had a 2.5 hour to 3 hour show already together. All we got to do is get our music, what we're going to play together. Skip Hall wrote a couple of originals. Then naturally we would play we finally got a theme from Bach to Boogie. And our Bach was, what was the name of that song? Da 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 da. Anyway, our opening song was Count Basie's 1 O'Clock Jump. Da 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 da. That was our opening song. So we all knew that. We didn't have to practice. That was our number 1 show. And then from then on, the 3 sad sacks sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So that was their song. And then the guy that sang, he'd sing all different things. And I'd come in with the blues. So we had a complete show. And he expected us to get it together in 6 weeks. Hell, we had it together in 2 weeks. So he came down and he listened to the show and he was very delighted. From then on, it was his band. We not only played shows, we played dances for officers. And for dances for officers, each of us got paid $20, which wasn't too shabby. I was able to save up enough money. When I came back home, I bought a lot in South Los Angeles for $900, and I put 4 2-bedroom units on it. They were moved on it, yeah. And that was a great time in the service. Mm-hmm.
So you were, I would imagine, pretty happy when you were able to trade in your M1 for a trombone.
You bet your sweet patootie. No, we had to keep our M1s with us.
Did you?
Yeah, everywhere you go. If you had to sleep with that bad boy, and they were pretty heavy. But we had them wherever we went. You don't know what's going to happen. We have to have, had to be ready.
But at least you weren't assigned to the infantry.
Oh no. After we got our basic training, it was just like a civilian life. Yeah, it really was.
So that early decision to play the trombone sort of
helped
pave
pave the way. Yeah, paved the way. Oh yeah.
So you eventually, let me see here. You arrived in Europe.
Okay, that I can tell you about that also. Around December, I would say, let's say the 15th of December, we were told to pack all of our gear and get ready to move out. We were going to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and camp is a staging place to get on ships to. So I had relatives in New York, and I'd been in New York several times. Told them I'd be there, and I'd be there for Christmas Eve. And man, they'd planned a big party for me and a couple of guys in the band, and we were really gonna have a ball. So that Christmas Eve, we went down to the docks to play guys onto the ship. We just playing military, and they're marching and going up the ship. So we got the last guys on the ship, and the lieutenant came to us and said, "Right face." We right face. Forward, who? Halt, left face. And marched us up on the gangplank. I said, what the hell? We're going to have to play a concert here. When are we going to get off here and go into New York and this party? We stayed on there and we played a while. You could hear the chains coming up, the anchor coming up. I said, man, they pulling the anchor up. What the hell are they doing? Next thing you could feel that thing jerk, and we're going out to sea. He said, damn, we're going out to sea. So we got out, we could see the harbor. They docked, we could see the harbor lights. We never got off that ship. The next morning we feel that jerk again and it's pulling off. And the worst, one thing I didn't like was the way the guys called me, "Hey, Sutherland! We're going on, we're hauling out of here. Are you scared?" I said, "Me scared? Hell yeah, I'm scared." Anyway, we never got to go back to New York. So I don't know how long it took. I would say 5, 6, 7 days. We landed in Birmingham, England. That's where we landed. And from there we got off the ship. And from there we motorized to a little town called, I think, Street, England, and that's where our headquarters were. So after we got settled, let's say a week or so, we got orders to go back to Birmingham and do a show. Well, that was good news. So we packed on this show, and we went to a group called the 6888 Postal Group. And the 6888 Postal Group was a whack group, a bunch of whacks. You know what whacks were, okay? And another thing about the 6888 whacks, they were black whacks. That's a letter from home. So we went and played that show that night, and after the show we sat around and jammed and talked to the whacks all night long. And that was our first gig there. And then from there we played all over England. We were in Glastonbury, we were in Stratton, you name it. White Cliffs of Dover, we were all over the place, man, just playing for troops. And that's the way it was in our life. When we played for the troops, they also served us dinner, and we got their best meat. They got steaks, we got pork chops, we got all kind of good food because they were crazy about the band. And that's why I say I lived a life that was really great. It really was.
So you guys were pretty well received.
You know we were. We're entertainers. You hear the blues. You wouldn't hear where are you going to hear the blues out on the battlefield? Where are you going to hear all these songs that you were raised up with? In the Mood for Love and all the good, those type of songs. Mm-hmm.
Give a little sense of home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And would you play for combat troops as well?
No, we didn't get that far into the. We couldn't even hear the bombs dropped or anything.
But would they, when they were?
They were like in a R&R.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where we would play. Played a lot of hospitals also. Uh-huh.
For wounded.
For wounded, yeah. But we were nowhere near the battlefield now.
Right. So in the hospitals, imagine you would see.
Oh yeah, we'd see the guys before the show. We'd go through the hospital and how you doing and pat on the back and all that sort of good stuff. Yeah, sort of like ambassadors, goodwill. Yeah, a lot of them shot up pretty bad.
Was that tough for you to see?
Well, in the beginning, yes, but after 2-3 months of it, or you sort of get, especially when we went to the Philippines, you're used to that now. Man, guys all wrapped up, legs in us. Yep.
And were they when you weren't performing and you're doing these
rehearsing?
Yeah. When you're talking, when you're talking to the troops individually.
Yeah.
Are they open with you as well? Or are they?
Yeah. They're glad to see you, man. Yeah, they're glad to see you. Yeah.
So, any other memories of your time in Europe that stick out in your head?
Oh, we were on the beach. We lost one guy. He went out too far and drowned. And that's the only thing that stands out in my mind, that we lost a guy. I think we were in the Philippines at that time. We were. Let's see. No, we were in England. We were in England when we lost this guy.
What happened to him?
He went out to the beach to swim, and with the rest of the guys, he just went out too far and couldn't get back. And we lost him there. The other thing in England, we 3 or 4 of us bought bicycles to ride around. When we were off, just go in town. We left there. We all gave our bikes away to kids in the neighborhood. Yeah, we were in a neighborhood. Our battalion, or at least our headquarters. I think headquarters was in a little town of. You ride out. Like in my neighborhood. Let's say you had troops, and we ride out. We're in the neighborhood, so we gave the bikes to the kids.
And how often would you guys perform on a weekly basis?
When we're not performing, we're marching. We're playing. We're playing for the troops, and I'd say at least 4 days a week. 4 days a week for sure, and then maybe 5. And then when we're not performing, we're playing dances for the officers. The dances that we played were just for officers.
And how do those differ from?
That wasn't for the troops. Those guys had the women and the whole 9 booze and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. And they would get some drunk. Thank you.
Were there any was there one that you preferred over the other?
I prefer the troops, yeah. Even though we got paid for doing the dances for the officers, I prefer the troops. They enjoyed it. They really enjoyed it. They'd come up to the bandstand crying, man. Hey, have you cried sometime, yeah. But that's the way it was, yeah.
And were you able to get letters and write letters to home? Were you
yeah. But after, I think after 6 months, I quit writing letters, and they quit writing me, which was fine with me, because I wouldn't know what am I going to tell them? We're out here struggling like a dog, or that we're fighting a war. I just quit writing letters. And my mother and father were probably too busy to write me too, so it didn't bother me that I didn't get a letter. You know, they had mail call out. If I never got it, it didn't bother me. I didn't have no girlfriend. I wasn't married, so hey, it was just me.
And you, we established earlier, you played both the trombone and the baritone.
And the baritone, yeah.
And were there certain sets that you would play one over the other?
Yes, especially in Stars and Stripes Forever, because there's a little part that the baritone, and you can't do that, yes, but you can on the finger, yeah. See, as you can see, our band was sort of small. We didn't have a 29-piece band. We had about 16 or 17. So you pick this up, and the saxophone player would pick up a clarinet or a piccolo, and play. And that's you need. And the Star Spangled Band, Stars and Stripes Forever, you need all of those. Yeah.
You guys were pretty versatile.
Oh yeah, man, them guys played the flute, the piccolo, the bassoon.
I imagine you guys became pretty close.
We were a close unit. Yeah, very close.
And would you guys kind of go everywhere together?
No.
Or when you guys were off, would you?
Yeah, no. I just ran around with two guys.
Who were they?
A trumpet player and another trombone player.
You remember their names?
Yeah, Obi Kimbrough was the trumpet player, and J.J. Johnson was the trombone player.
You remember where they were from?
Obi was from Macon, Georgia. Johnson was from Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm sure they must all be dead by now because I've tried to get in touch with Stanley Fazy. He died about 3 or 4 years ago in Texas. Johnson, I couldn't get in touch with him. I've tried to get in touch with all the other guys. No luck. And as I say, there were two of us about the same age. Horace Holloman, he's dead. I know he's gone, but he'd be 91, 92 also. So more so 92. And we were about the youngest. All the other guys were older. So they'd probably be 99, 100. I'm sure I would more than likely say they're gone. Oh.
Do you remember when you guys got orders to pack up? You guys were leaving England and then going to be sent to the city?
We were told we were going through the Panama Canal, and we're going to dock it in San Francisco and get a 2 weeks vacation and come on back and get on a ship and go to the Philippines. I don't know who put that lie out. We went through the Panama Canal and headed straight to the Philippines.
There's no detour to San Francisco?
No detour, no nothing. Next thing we know, we're in the Philippines. What was the name of the place we were? I can't remember, but I know we played at the stadium there. I remember the picture that came out, The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart. And after that, we came on and played a show or two. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I remember.
You remember that journey from England to the Philippines?
I just remember going through the canal, and the rest was all I don't know. I can't remember that. No.
Remember the ship that you were on?
Yeah, I can remember. It wasn't the Tatarax. It was the Liberty ship. It'll come to me.
Were there other troops on board as well?
Oh yeah. It was low. It was a Liberty ship. It was full of troops. We just happened to be. I can't remember. I can't remember too much about the sailing. I knew we were on it for 4, 5, 6, 7 days.
Pretty uneventful.
Yeah, very uneventful. It is out there on that water for 7 days. All you see is water. Once in a while you'll see a mountain, and that was it. As a matter of fact, during the time we were going over on both seas, I worked in a bakery. I wanted to be sure that I always had something to eat, so I worked in the bakery. And guys worked in different areas of the ship, yeah, but I worked in a bakery. Mm-hmm.
And when you arrived in the Philippines, you said you were on Luzon, or
I was what?
you were on Luzon?
No, we were. Where was it? That was Philippines. Can't remember this island we were on.
Did you guys jump around?
We were in Manila.
Manila.
Manila, yeah.
Did you guys jump around, or were you, once you arrived, that's where you?
Well, once we arrived, our camp was in San Fernando La Union, but that was like from here to where? About 8, 10, 12 miles. And they had the little jitneys. If you wanted to go in town, you could go on that. And once in a while, the troop bus would carry us into town. But we were in Manila. Luzon Stadium is where we played. And they had as I say, I remember the picture that was out at that time was of the Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart. And they played that, they showed that picture, and then we came on a stage show after that. Yeah. And entertained. We entertained all over the area. Matter of fact, when we got a chance, we went into town and they had what was the name of that club in Manila? It'll come to me. Anyway, we played with some musicians that they were glad to see us. We got some musicians from the United States, man, and they were really glad to see us sit in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did life differ for you from England?
How long was?
How did your daily life differ being in Manila as compared to how it was in England?
Well, there were a lot of women around in Manila. They washed your clothes and done the whole 9 yards for you, and that was. We didn't have that. Well, I don't know whether that was a luxury or not to get your uniforms clean, and not too much different. Not too much different. The only difference was the language. They spoke Tagalog, and those that knew English spoke broken English. But in England, everybody spoke English. That's the difference. And I never. A lot of guys learn their language. I never had the desire to want to learn Tagalog. Otherwise, I wasn't. If I get out of here, I'm not coming back.
You're not going to use it again.
No. But it was a wonderful time, sir. I have to say it.
And you guys maintained the same band all the way through?
Same band all the way through, yeah. Until they said if you had 24 months, you could get an honorable discharge. I had 24 months. I said, where do you sign up?
You were discharged in May of 46.
46, yes.
So when did you return home from the Philippines?
I would say about a week before I was discharged. So we would talk maybe the 1st or 2nd of May. Okay. We went to Camp Beale, California. That's where we were discharged.
So you guys were still over there for a good period of time after the war ended.
After the war, well, I was over there for 8 months. Yeah, over there for 8 months.
You guys were still playing for...
Well, they broke the band up about a month before I was discharged, so we're talking about maybe April, February, March, April, in there somewhere. And we just laid around, didn't do nothing, eat, and pack your stuff, and hope that day would hurry up and come. And then they transferred us to what you call a Repo depot, where we were orientated and took our rifles and all of the things that we had. I had a valve trombone and a slide trombone, so I brought those home with me, and clothes, which I didn't really want. And that was about the size of it.
So they were in no hurry to get you guys back home after?
Not really.
They're probably trying to get the combat troops home.
Yeah, probably get to talk about it. Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy your time overseas?
Yes, I did. I really did. That was, well, 19 years old, and I think I had been away from home one time. I played with Noble Sissel. I played the Last Frontier in Las Vegas when I was 17 years old. They needed a trombone player and a saxophone player and a guy by the name of Adam Green. And I went, we took that one road to Las Vegas and played with him for the weekend. Oh. But that's the first time that I was away from home for 3 days, and then I went into the Army. Man, 2 years away from home, that's a long time. I remember the first time I got to Camp Ellis, Illinois. It was a Sunday. Oh, what had happened? At Camp Ellis, Illinois, they had some German prisoners work in the kitchen. And I got my metal tray and I went through the line. They put my mashed potatoes here. They put the gravy on top of that. They put the meat on top of that. Put the peas on top of that. They put everything on top of that. And then they put my apple pie on top of all that. Oh, man, get out of here. When I ate some of it, and I didn't feel like it. I went and called my mother. And I said, "Hi, Mom." When she said hello, I started crying. I just broke down. That I remember quite well. That was the worst day of my entire life. The worst day. Other than that, I enjoyed it after, as I say, after I got out of my basic training. It was 3 months. So I spent 8 months in the United States, 8 months in England, and 8 months in the Philippines, which gave me my 2 years. And I was happy to get out, very happy to get out.
And where were you discharged?
Camp Beale, California. Uh-huh.
Did you go straight home after that?
Did I ever? I couldn't wait to get home. I couldn't wait. I wanted to get a hot dog, a hamburger, and a malt.
You remember where you went for that?
Yeah, there was a place in town called a Mile High, and that's where I went. And also, what was his name? We had the hot dogs. Frank's. Frank's had the best hot dogs in town. And that's where I went. Got a hot dog, a hamburger, and this malt.
Were your parents waiting for you when you got home? Did they know
I surprised them. They didn't know I was coming home. I was surprised them. I sure did. I remember that very well. I went to my mother's. My mother had as I told you, a business sewing. She had hired 23 ladies sewing, power machine, and I went by there. And I opened the door and says, "Hi, Mom," and she screamed, "Oh, boy." And my father was very low-key. He was glad to see me, but very low-key. Mm-hmm.
That reunion felt pretty good.
Oh, yes. And my brothers, they worked at the market. They worked at the market in town, in the produce section. I went by and saw them. And that was the end of my Army career for sure.
You held on to your instruments, you said?
And just until 1958. I played in San Francisco at Slim Jenkins in Oakland, and that was about it. I was, most of the guys that I knew were on drugs, and a couple of them overdosed, and that wasn't a life for me. That, I sort of weaned myself away from music and didn't care for it anymore. I put my horn down and never looked back. Never bought a whole lot of records or nothing. That was a life that I enjoyed while I was in the Army. I enjoyed it as I was young, but that wasn't for me. Because most musicians don't, unless you're the leader of the band. It's just like owning a market. You hire guys to work, and that's it. That's the same way with music. Count Basie made all the money, and the sidemen got paid. And that's with any big band. That's with Harry James and Stan Kenton, all of them. They're the ones who make the money. You're a sideman. You get paid pretty well, but you can't save money on the road because you're chasing women and drinking whiskey and doing all sorts of things. You don't, you have to pay rent wherever you are, so you don't get a chance to save it. That wasn't for me. I want no parts of that.
So what did you do in the years following getting out of the Army?
From 46 to 52, that was 6 or 7 wasted years. In the streets, gambling, shooting pool, and drinking whiskey, in the nightclubs and all. I'd done very little in music. When you got out at that time, they gave you what was called 2052. Oops, excuse me, $20 a week for 52 weeks. So that's 1 year I didn't do anything but get the money. The other years, I just, what did I do? I didn't really settle down until I got married in 1952, and I said, well, I guess I'm married now. I gotta go to work. First, I worked as an apprentice butcher. Then I got into painting and decorating. Then I started a business of income tax service, which I currently have still. I've been doing income tax for 66 years. I started when I was 27. 66 and 27 is 93. And I've been doing income tax all those years, which I still, at one time I had 400 clients. Right now I've backed off, I have about 100. I do that to keep my mind fresh. Also got into painting and decorating. Everything that I own it to painting and decorating mostly because that was my big thing. I went to work for the County of Los Angeles. I worked for the County of Los Angeles for 32 years. I was a painter supervisor. With being a painter supervisor for the county and doing taxes, I made out pretty well. I made out better than if I'd have stayed a musician all those years. And that's it.
You mentioned how many children?
4 girls, 9 grandchildren, 10 or 11 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild, and possibly 2 or 3 in escrow.
And how long were you married for?
52 years I was married. 52. My wife passed away in 2004. Mm-hmm.
So you're 92 years old. You're gonna be 93 in December.
In December.
You've seen a lot of change in your life, in this country. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I've lived from the horse and buggy days to the jet age. I remember when sound was the fastest thing. Now we've got planes that fly so fast, if they shoot bullets, they'll shoot themselves. And that's progress. That's a lot of progress. It's amazing what these computers have done. They've just changed the whole world. Yeah.
And then also I want to ask you about growing up through segregation and through the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
You grew up in Los Angeles,
Yes.
which is probably considerably more liberal and accepting than maybe
Yes.
some other states.
Right.
Can you speak on any of those experiences
I never had any bad because I stayed away from it, but I have to take my hat off to those who were in the civil rights movement, who made it possible for things that are here today. But I didn't have that. I was discriminated against, don't misunderstand me, but I didn't have, because I stayed away from it. I don't think I would have fit in with that. I'd have been more rebellious, I think. I could not have turned the other cheek. And I'm glad that I wasn't in it, because I don't think that I could have endured it.
If you have any advice for my generation, future generations, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren?
Learn to love everybody. God is love. Learn to love everybody.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.